Well, I think we will begin. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to St. Louis County's virtual town hall meeting on Project Cornerstone, updating St. Louis County's facilities master plan. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Lorna Godwin of Vector Communications, and I am your moderator for this meeting. Today, we are going to share with you why the master plan is being updated, the feedback we have received from the public and county staff on improving customer service in the workplace environment, then potential options for upgrading the facilities. Participating in today's webinar is Stephanie Leon Streeter, St. Louis County's Director of Transportation and Public Works, who is leading this project. And from WSP, the lead consultant, is Jason Mayfield, Project Manager, and Judah Gluckman, Deputy Project Manager. Working behind the scenes on this webinar are two of my co-workers at Vector Communications, Darby Latham and Taylor Bardsley. The agenda for our time together is first to hear introductory remarks from Stephanie Leon Streeter. Stephanie will be followed by a presentation from Jason Mayfield. Then we will answer your questions. Before we begin, it's important that I review our virtual meeting protocol. Now, during this meeting, all of you will be on mute so everyone can hear clearly. If you have a question, please click on the chat button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can submit a question at any time during this webinar. We will answer your questions after the formal presentation. When it comes time to answer questions, I will read them out loud and team members will answer them. Since there are so many of us on the call today, we ask that you remain muted and submit your questions through the chat box only. Thanks so much. Well, now that we have the virtual meeting protocol covered, I will turn the meeting over to Stephanie Leon Streeter. Stephanie, it's all yours.
Thank you, Lorna. Good morning, everybody. And again, thank you for being with us today. We're happy that you're joining us. So we're in the midst of a big project. Our county maintained infrastructure is old. This is true for roads. This is especially true for our buildings. Our building infrastructure in many cases does not meet current business needs. The current administration building, for example, was built in 1970, and that's more than 50 years old. And a lot has changed in 50 years. I can say that about my own life. I can say that about my work environment. I can say that about technology. And I think we can all say that so much has changed in 50 years. And our buildings and our building spaces should be able to meet us where we're at so that we can best accomplish our goals today. So Project Cornerstone affords us a great opportunity to not only do something modern and effective and flexible, but carry us into the next 50 years. It's a heavy lift, and that's why WSP is working alongside us and helping St. Louis County in evaluating, preparing, and delivering the project. Our timeline is finite. This is not expected to be something, a project that goes on indefinitely. Due to fire code requirements, we have a hard deadline, January 1st, 2028. To hit. And so that's our goal, and that's what we're working towards. We've been meeting regularly with WSP since the project started last summer, the end of last summer of 2022, and a lot has been evaluated since then, but there's so much more to do. And so that's where you all come in. We hope that you take what you learned today and what you know about how you as employees work in our buildings, how you as our agency partners work with us in our buildings, and you provide us feedback on how we can do things better in those customer service focused spaces where we tend to gather with each other. So thank you again for being here, and we look forward to your feedback. Lorna?
Thank you, Stephanie, and I second that. Thank you so much for being on our webinar today because this is a very important project. In a minute, Jason Mayfield will present our engagement feedback and the options for upgrading the county's facilities. During Jason's presentation, we will periodically stop to ask you a question. You will be able to respond to our questions by using Mentimeter, a live polling software. Now, if you please pull out your phone and scan the QR code that you see on the screen to view the live polling questions, or you can go to menti.com and enter the code on the screen, which is 11986018. I will give you a minute to scan the QR code or go to the website. Okay, so all of you should have Mentimeter open now. So let's try a test question. And here it is. At what facility do you work? Choose one of the options you see on the screen, and you have 15 seconds to respond. Okay, Jason, let's see what folks have said. So it's mainly the Clayton one, followed by other. Okay, thank you so much. So now you know how Mentimeter works. And as I said, throughout Jason's presentation, we will be stopping to ask you a question. So now I will turn it over to Jason. Jason, it's all yours.
Thanks, Lorna, and appreciate the opportunity to be here. So we're going to start with a little bit of background. As Stephanie alluded to, we have a finite deadline. The LK Roos building has to be fully sprinklered by January 1st, 2028, which means we have no choice to do nothing. Now, sprinkling the building creates other minimum impacts in order to accomplish that. So one, obviously, we have to sprinkler the building. It's a life safety issue mandated by code. But in doing that, we also need to abate some hazardous materials. We need to remove and replace ceilings, lights, equipment, just in order to facilitate that mandate. And so that knowing we have to spend money on stuff that we may not see and hope to never use, the strategy here was to try and explore other opportunities that can improve customer service, since we know we have to do something. So how can we improve customer service? How can we better adapt to the hybrid work model that the county has adopted and allow them to function more effectively? How can we address some long-term outstanding capital and maintenance budget? As Stephanie alluded to, the building's 50+ years old. And how do we utilize this opportunity to potentially consolidate the real estate portfolio and drive economic development? All with the idea on improving customer service and staff work environments. And so throughout this process, we have asked a bunch of questions. We've identified and worked with in-person focus groups and surveys with the staff. And so we've identified the staff has identified some work from home benefits. One, it saves money. It's improves some flexibility, and staff has found that they've got less interruptions when they're working from home. And on the right-hand side of this slide, they've also identified some obstacles to working in the office. Since they're not in the office routinely, they find there's some frequent interruptions, people catching up. There's still some lingering COVID and health-related concerns. And no surprise to anybody, parking has started to kind of raise to the top of the list as far as obstacles. We've also asked the question, well, what improvements could be made to a workspace in order to allow them to work more effectively? And what we've identified is staff is routinely wants to know who's working where, when they're available, et cetera, just so it could be more productive and collaborative. They've also identified a need to use some online tools and resources that's accessible wherever they may be working. And so throughout this process too, we also wanted to identify amenities, either at a site location or in a building, that could improve staff's productivity. And so one of the things is food service. They want access to food and they need a place to eat it. Parking, another issue that's popped up. A garage would be ideal, but nearby is key. Fitness and daycare spaces have been identified in order to improve that personal flexibility throughout the day, and then conference and meeting spaces to improve the professional flexibility throughout the day. And so now that we've discussed a little bit about what we've learned to date from the staff, I'm going to turn it over to Lorna for our next question.
Great, thank you, Jason. So the question is, you just saw all the amenities that Jason showed you. Choose the workplace amenity that you think would most positively impact your productivity. Most positively impact your productivity. Go ahead and select one. I'll give you a few more seconds. "72 respondents." Okay, great. Jason, let's see what folks said. Interesting, two very close. Private food service and fitness facilities. And followed by relatively close number 3 is parking garage. Great, thank you for that. Jason, back to you.
Thanks, Lorna. That is great feedback and good to see. So I also want to relay some of the findings that we found from a public survey. We had a survey go out. We received over 400 respondents, which allows us to create a very high level of confidence in both quantitative and qualitative results. And what you'll see is some correlation from the public survey with what we've heard from staff. Is appointment scheduling and multiple service windows so that they have access to and defined times to interact with staff. And you'll start to see that parking comes up as well. So in the obstacle side, it's very similar to the priorities to improve customer service is long wait times, not enough staff, parking is expensive, hours. So it's all a very collaborative and interrelated with what we've heard from the staff. All fun information. So now we're going to go back to Lorna for another question.
Here we go. Rank the workplace improvements on their positive impact on customer service. Your top choice would have the most positive impact. And it looks like I see 70 respondents, so we'll go with most of the people have. Okay. Number 1 is scheduled appointments. And then tied for second, further down, is information desk improvements, service kiosks. I think we also need to include multi-service customer windows. Thank you for responding. Jason?
Thanks, Lorna. So now we're going to get into kind of where we're at to date on Project Cornerstone. And I want to just highlight a couple of big topics here. One, we're going to improve customer service. That's a big goal. We're going to adapt to the hybrid work model, and we're going to look at opportunities to consolidate the real estate portfolio. You know, what facilities or leases or spaces we can have that we can consolidate to create a more effective customer service environment. And you've heard me say hybrid work model a few times. And so I want to just go through a real quick definition of what that means. And the key with hybrid work is creating the flexibility of the staff to choose their workspace based on their task for the day or a short period of time. And so it's a combination of flexible work points that are both assigned and unassigned, open and private, collaborative spaces that are formal and informal, and shared flex space so that you can work individually in a space of your choosing or adjacent to coworkers in a collaborative environment. So those are just a few definitions to keep in your head that play a part into some of the concepts we're going to review here over the next few minutes. So Project Cornerstone started with a big long list of master goals. Let's just say top 20 goals. Over the course of time, we've narrowed that down to 10 and eventually 7 building-centric custom goals. And so the scoring criteria you can see here the top two, improved customer service and a modern right-size flexible workspace, they equate to roughly half of the total points that we're using as kind of an objective scoring criteria in order to illustrate how important they are to the project. And then we've got, additional goals of, maintaining the well-maintained facilities, life cycle optimization in order to protect the building and its expenses over the course of time. Something that both the staff and the public are proud of, leveraging underutilized assets, and it's accessible. And we identified these. It's just as a way to start to score the options and strategies. So over time, the team has identified a total of 8 strategies in play. Here, we're focusing on 3. So LKR1, which is the red box, is the minimum required by the mandate. As you can see, based on the initial objective scoring criteria, it happens to also be the lowest objectively scored option that meets those 7 goals we just spoke about. LKR4, which would be the purple box, is the highest ranked option or strategy that utilizes the existing LK Roos building. And you can see, based on its scoring criteria, it's roughly 2.5 to 3 times better at meeting the goals of Project Cornerstone. And then LKR7, which is the blue box on the right, is the highest rated overall strategy in place, scoring about 99 out of 100 based on those objective 7 points, 7 goals that we just talked about. And I'm going to go into each of those options in a little bit more detail just to get everybody on the same page. So LKR1, as Stephanie stated in the recent council discussion, is there's no choice to do nothing. So in this option, we are doing what is required by the new building code in place to sprinkler the LK Roos building by January 1st, 2028. We are not doing anything else other than the mandate in that we are going to sprinkler the building, abate the stuff above the ceiling, tear the ceilings down. That's what I talked about earlier. So the benefit is it meets the mandate. The constraints are it doesn't really improve or meet any of the project goals identified in customer service, adapting to the hybrid work model. We know since the building's 50 years old and hasn't undergone any significant renovation, eventually we'll have to do interior and exterior renovations just to keep the building operational. And since we're doing a limited scope, there is the highest risk for uncovering unforeseen conditions that will creep up during construction. So there's a lot of a risk in LKR1. So in LKR4, this is, as I stated earlier, this is the highest rated strategy utilizing the existing LK Roos building. And we've provided a departmental diagram, a stacking diagram, as we call it, in the top right corner that helps illustrate what we're going to do. We are going to essentially renovate the entire facility, interior and exterior, in order to better meet those project goals. And we're going to keep the core functions of county government in Clayton, that being the executive, the county council, the county councilor. And by keeping just those core functions in the building, and we're going to create a new mid-county facility that will house all the other functions in Clayton that are more customer centric, so that we can focus on how we can best serve the customer and create an environment for the staff to do that. By moving and creating that mid-county satellite, it allows us to consolidate our real estate portfolio by potentially moving the police headquarters function into the facility, which then allows us to liquidate or sell or renovate for other functions, the police headquarters and other county facilities. So we can reduce that portfolio by up to 2. The constraints here in doing that is it may require some temporary facilities to house the staff, and it will require some significant structural upgrades to meet the current seismic code. So while it checks a lot of boxes, there are some constraints that we have to kind of manage throughout the process. So I alluded to this mid-county customer service facility. And what this is it's a new standalone facility. We'll talk a little bit about locations in a minute, but it adapts to the hybrid work model. It's customer focused, with a big open lobby, kiosks, scheduling strategies. The strategy is it's going to be accessible. It's going to be easy to get to, and have multiple methods of transportation available to get there. So that's LKR4, highest rated use of the existing LK Roos building. LKR7 takes a little bit different approach. This was the highest rated overall strategy we've discussed to date. It essentially creates an entirely new facility of core function county needs in the city of Clayton. It utilizes, just like LKR4, a new mid-county customer-centric facility so that our Clayton footprint is reduced to that is required to be there. And by creating this new facility in Clayton, it allows us to potentially liquidate up to 3 other facilities, further consolidating our real estate portfolio. Being new, there's a slew of benefits to being new in that we can control essentially everything with the project as best we can. But the constraints here is it's probably the second highest impact to the overall budget. And as I alluded to in the LK4 option, this creates that new mid-county satellite by consolidating all those non-core Clayton departments into that single customer-oriented facility. So I know since everybody probably has a question, well, what's this mid-county satellite strategy really look like? Well, we don't know what it looks like. We've narrowed down some ideas on where it could be located. The objective here is to identify access, simplify that access to this facility by the staff and the public. And you can see in the map, the little red building icon kind of off to the center is where Clayton is. And we've identified key areas kind of in the vicinity, easily accessible, that's outside that Clayton footprint, because the Clayton footprint is, as everybody knows, probably one of the most expensive real estate areas in the metro region. So we've created this centralized strategy for a customer-centric facility. So now that I ran through probably relatively quickly these options and a mid-county satellite concept, I'm going to turn it over to Lorna for our next question.
Thank you, Jason. And I am going to ask you 3 questions in a row. So keep your Mentimeter going. The first is, what do you think about this new centralized mid-county customer service facility? Tell us how you feel. Pick one. And I'll give you another few seconds. Okay, Jason, let's see what people say. They agree. Most agree. All right. So the next question is, which area would be your ideal location for a new centralized mid-county customer service facility? Pick A, B, C, or D. Okay, Jason, let's see what folks have said. The Brentwood Maplewood area is the top choice, followed by Lindbergh Olive. Okay, thank you. The next question is now, in a few words, like 2 or 3 words, tell us why you picked the location that you did. An example would be close to home or lots of parking. Just in 2 or 3 words, tell us why you picked the one you did. And if there's more than one reason, you can put two different answers. Okay, the number keeps going up, so I will wait until it stops for a few seconds. Oh, this is great. All right, Jason, let's see what folks have said. Close to home, closer to home. Centralized, easy commute, accessible. Great, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. Now Jason will go through the next option and I'll ask you the same three questions again. Jason?
Thanks, Lorna. So as we went through Project Cornerstone, we started exploring the mid-county satellite strategy. It came apparent that there's an opportunity to introduce a Southwest satellite strategy. So very similar to the Midwest or mid-county satellite option. We wanted to look at opportunities to consolidate locations that improve customer service and consolidating security. And so a Southwest satellite could employ a single secure entry with an improved lobby, kiosk scheduling, all the benefits we talked about in the past. It would adapt to the hybrid work model, easy to get to, everything we've talked about with the mid-county satellite facility. So what we are studying are what would that look like to create a central secure access for all users, and how many facilities could we consolidate in order to make it a very central customer focused environment. And so the opportunity is to create a customer-focused environment that can serve the county constituents in the Southwest vicinity, eliminating, consolidating up to 4 or 5 leases. And you can see in this area, we've identified 5 different locations in that Southwest area. So Lauren is going to ask us similar questions.
Tell us how you feel about this option, the Southwest Satellite Facility. Okay, it stopped at number 73. So Jason, let's take a look. Oh, one more came in. Great. You agree, mainly agree and strongly agree. All right, thank you. So now, as before, the next question is, which area would be your ideal location for a consolidated Southwest satellite facility? What's your ideal location? Pick one. Okay, it's been 15 seconds. So Jason, let's see. Oh, by far, Gravois, Lindbergh, I-270. Okay, great. And now tell us why, again, in 2 or 3 words, why you picked the location that you did. Number's still going up, so I'll give you a few more seconds. And by the way, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. All right, let's see what you have said, Jason. Oh, it's still coming up, so let's wait. Oh, there's one more, 83. All right, Jason. Again, close to home, easy interchange, easy access. What we're seeing on the screen thus far. Easily accessible. Thank you so much, Jason. I turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Lorna. So you may be going, okay, where are we? What are our next steps? And so right now, Project Cornerstone is in the identify phase. We are looking, as you can see by the red arrow, where we're at in that phase. We're winding down, and our objective is to make a final recommendation and council presentation next month, May of 2023. Yes, time flies. And from there, we'll move directly into procurement. Now, as we alluded to in the beginning, we have this mandate to have the solution in place by January 1st, 2028. We know these projects are going to be big and complicated, so it takes time. And so once we make the recommendation, the goal is to move into procurement, and procurement will take a long period of time, but it's all tied to getting into the new facility and having the solution in place by January 1st, 2028. And that today is our presentation.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Jason. Any questions? We have none that have been sent in thus far, but we'll give you a moment.
While everybody's thinking of some questions, I wanted to point out that the county's created a Project Cornerstone page on their website. This QR code will take you there. You can also find it on the transportation and public works page. There's a button there to find it as well. So you can look at that page to find updates as we move throughout this process.
I see a question there. How is the build funded? Through bonds?
So I can take that question. Right now, we are working on that funding strategy. We don't have something specific known at this moment. We are working on that. We know that we will need funding assistance, obviously, and so the details of that are still being worked out.
Okay, great. And we have one other question, and then that's it. What does this mean for the location that we are currently using, which is 1050 North Lindbergh?
So, Lorna, I can take that question to
great,
some degree
Jason.
and allow Stephanie to fill in if I miss it. So it all depends on the final solution. There's an opportunity. We've identified there's collaborative natures with part of the hybrid work model that could facilitate that department and those folks working co-located with other departments. In LKR1, nothing changes. The building is sprinklered and nothing else changes. In 4 and 7, there's an opportunity to consolidate departments so that you can have a more collaborative workspace with the adjacent departments.
And those are all the questions we have. So I want to thank everyone for your interest in Project Cornerstone and participating in this webinar and answering our questions through Mentimeter. We really appreciate it. As you know, this is very important. Something needs to be done because the current facility has outlived its life expectancy. So your involvement will help make this project a success. As you heard, a final recommendation will be made at a county council presentation next month in May. So thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day and be safe. Bye-bye.
Lorna, if I can just
Oh, sure,
chime in
Stephanie.
on our website, there is an opportunity if you have a question and it comes to you later, there is a place that you can provide us your feedback or your question, and it's a mailbox, if you will, and we will respond to you. So
Great.
don't hesitate to keep your comments all closed up. We do want to hear them.
Absolutely. Thank you for adding that. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.